I did see this morning the Mirror, which is one of the bastions of great journalism, not a tabloid, no, no, are reporting that Barcelona is at the top of the list for Jonathan David services. This is days after that Arsenal and Manchester United were mentioned as top of the list for Jonathan David services. Jimmy, this is just what happens, right? When a big name free agent becomes available, everyone's just trying to get to the front of the line, even though they can't talk officially until January.
That's right. They're all doing it behind the scenes, more or less, just trying to figure it all out, talking with agents to see where they stand and what their goals are and where they want to go. And all the clubs will be putting together a nice package, trying to lure Jonathan David into the clubs. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, that's fantastic clubs to have that you have on your list where you could end up going: Barcelona, Man United, Arsenal, and I'm sure all three of them are going to be pushing each other, which means that the one club that he does go to is going to probably spend an absolute fortune to get his services.
As you're approaching the holidays, do these packages, are they holiday themed? Are they Christmas themed? Like,
Well,
are
they're
there
not in the
baked
mail.
goods?
They're not in the mail.
Hmm.
It's a
Not in
bit of a
Canada,
strike,
certainly.
so you'll be waiting a long time for that.
Hmm. Is it basically
FedEx.
a blank bit of paper saying, "Here's the package, you fill out the rest"?
No, look when it's time to come January, they'll have a presentation set forward for the player to have a look at and review with the agent normally, and it's just them talking about the club, talking about their ambitions, where they're going, what they want to do, who their targets are, talk about the city, the stadium, the fans. So it's a small presentation a lot of time that happens that goes forth to these players to decide on where they want to go.
So it's more than just money, right? At this point, so they're saying, "Listen, this is where you fit into our system. This will be your coach. These are your teammates. This is where we see you working within Barcelona's system or Arsenal's system."
Yeah, well, because look, if Barcelona, Arsenal, and Man U all come up with the same wages and say, okay, we'll give you, I don't know, 300 grand a week. So you've got to make yourself different from the other clubs. So they'll all put something together to show what their ambitions are, where they're headed, what they want to do. You got to sell the club.
Now, Champions League football must be very close to top of the list dubs for Jonathan David. He's playing in it now. He bosses the Champions League. So you look at those three clubs. Two of them will be in the Champions League next year. One of them won't be, more than likely. But it is Manchester United. It is arguably the biggest club in world football. So where do you think John David puts the Champions League component to this package above other elements?
I think that's something that takes it a level above the others. I think you also look at the respective coaches. I don't think it's just about Champions League. I mean, certainly when you're aspiring, you want to vault yourself onto a bigger stage. You want to make sure that you're getting meaningful minutes. I mean, those are going to be all the things that you're considering. But I think you also look at the coaches who are there. So it's Hansi Flick, right? Is at Barca. You look at Arteta. You look at Amarim. I think Man United is probably at a little bit of a disadvantage now because they find themselves in such flux. Like there's uncertainty there with Ratcliffe and Ineos and Ashworth leaving, no sporting director. I think that sends them down the pecking order. Quite frankly, I think the size of the club, the history of winning, of trophies and silverware, certainly works in Man U's advantage. But I mean, Jimmy, maybe you can speak to this. Like, he's talked about Barcelona being his childhood club, and that's what his dream has always been, to play for them. So, can the other clubs even expect to compete when that is sort of looming over these offers that he's going to field and he's going to try to look at as objectively as possible?
Yeah,
But Barca is always going to be something it's going to have a leg up on all the others, is it not?
yeah. There is a lure to the others, but for me, definitely Champions League it will be a priority for him as well. He'll want to play Champions League football. You're competing against the best every single year, and it'd be hard for him stepping away from Champions League, going to Man United, where they're probably saying, well, we're in a bit of a rebuild here. We got a new manager coming in. We need to get some players. So you're not even playing European football. You're just playing domestic football.
Mhm.
Where Barcelona, you could end up going to Barcelona in January or coming towards the end of the season. They're top of the table right now. They're looking to win championships. They want a good spell in Champions League. Arsenal, the exact same. They're putting some good pieces together. They want to compete for titles. So at the end of the day, I think Barcelona will be the team that's going to win because I think they offer a lot more. I think they've got a young squad. They're playing a great brand of football right now. And I think that would be the appealing club for him, especially if it was a club that he supported as a kid. And I think with Man United, yes, they are a massive club, but they've just been terrible over the last number of years. And I don't think he'll want to put himself in that situation where he goes there and you're not sure what's going to happen or where they're going to end up.
They are a young team, aside from Lewandowski, who is a current centre forward for Barcelona.
Well, that's who he's going to replace.
Yeah, because he's 36 years of age. But right now,
Yeah,
Lewandowski still has 16 goals, right,
it's
in
incredible.
16 games. He's not going to be retiring next year. He's still a couple of years away. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're John David, you look at the allure of Barcelona, which, as you mentioned there, like, it's a club that he revered growing up. He loves that club. It's his dream to play there. Are you prepared to be more of a squad player for a couple of years, but get the opportunity? Or would you rather go to a place like Arsenal, for example, where, quite honestly, with respect to Kai Havertz, who's a smart footballer, good IQ, he's not prolific, he's not scoring goals. Jesus is probably on his way out there. There's more opportunity, it seems, right now at an Arsenal, for example, than a Barcelona.
I don't know about that, Charms, because I think when you look at the strikers that they have right there that you just mentioned, Lewandowski, I mean, is he next year? Is he going to play a full season? Probably not. And the year after that, is he going to play another full season? Probably not. Where Jonathan David could be going to a massive club with one of the best strikers in the world and learning off of him.
Mm.
And I'm sure Lewandowski, that would be part of his role would be to take Jonathan David under his arm as well and make him into a better striker than what he is right now.
I think though he's in a unique situation, not to play contrarian, but I think to support Charms's point is that you're at a point now in your career, you get that double against Brest, apropos, and you're over 100 goals for Lille. He's kind of done everything that he can do at a club. You're going somewhere else. You don't want to go to a storied club and sit on a bench. You want to go and you want to continue that legacy. You want to continue that prolific scoring. And so, the talk is he the best number 9 in CONCACAF? And now there's talks where he's in discussion as, or his name's being thrown around as one of the best strikers worldwide. So you don't, even if you're going to a really impressive club and potentially playing kind of mentor-mentee with Robert Lewandowski, you want to play. So you want to push him out of there. You want to learn from him. Sure, you want to continue to ply your trade, but you have to do it, I think, starting. You have to do it playing, not just getting minutes here and there, but actually being the guy at the next club.
Yeah. I don't think Barcelona is going to sign him to put him on the bench. It just would not make sense to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming in because they need to replace Lewandowski. Because of his age, is he going to play every single game? Will Lewandowski next year just be the player that comes off the bench, and Jonathan David's going to be the man to start? Younger, fresh legs, can play full season. So I think that's what they're looking at. I know I would be if I was Barcelona looking right now, thinking, okay, yeah, we've had a good run with Lewandowski, but he hasn't started every game. But could he be that guy that we could keep for the next couple of years who can come off the bench and make a difference?
Is that it in terms of the competition when you look at the depth chart as a 9?
Well, got Torres as well.
Okay.
You have who, sorry, as well?
Torres.
Yeah, and Rafinha, right? I mean, he's been very good as well. Different kind of players. But if you're a coach of any of these teams, do you see Jonathan David as a number 9, where he's essentially playing at Lille, or more of that like 9.5?
Yeah, you can play a false 9.
Yeah, where like with Canada, he's doing that, right?
Yeah, you can play as a full 9 or a false 9. I mean, he's well capable. He's a clever player. I think he'll suit Barcelona the way that they play. tactically, their movement. I think he can adjust very quickly to how teams want to play, and you can play him in different shapes, which is great to have. He's not just an out and out number 9.
But that is a sexier position, isn't it? Goal scoring. That's what he does. He scores goals. As they always say, there's the hardest thing to do in sports is score goals. It's funny how strikers say that, more than anyone else, isn't it? So it's not
Well,
that.
you know what? For our friend Forrest says that quite often as the goalkeeper.
When he's in goal, maybe. You try and beat me. I could start Jonathan David. I'm trying to find some betting odds here for David where he may or may not go. So if you guys have some more to talk about this, keep going while I kind of have a look here.
Well, Dubs, if it was you and you had the option of those 3 clubs, where would you end up going?
I think like to my earlier point where I think it's hard to compete when your aspirations, your goal, your dreams have been fixated on a club since you're a wee kid, right? It's I mean, yes, you're going to look at the absolutes. You're looking to look at that positives, negatives. You're comparing club to club. You're going to listen to that presentation. You're going to look at who's in the technical staff, who's there ahead of you, the depth chart, where you hope to learn, and all that sort of stuff. What you need to do yourself, look at it objectively in terms of getting better incrementally every single day, which is, I think, the type of mentality that he has. But yeah, aside from Champions League, which Barca already has, I don't know what the other clubs, if you're Arsenal and Man U, can do to contend. So I mean, for me, it's an easy choice for him. If as you said, if the wages, if the offer is comparable when you're looking across those 3 clubs.
Yeah.
Do you look at it if you're David? Look at Barcelona, Jimmy, and you look at the financial issues there, though. How it is hard to build a team for the long haul, because I mean we've seen what they've done the last number of years. These financial levers they put in place, what they owe long term to pay off these irregularities. That's why they lost some great players in the past, and they've done a pretty good job. Let's be honest, of paving over the cracks, so to speak, and still being competitive and one of the best teams in Europe despite those issues. But does that play a role as well?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think, if he's looking at it thinking this is a young team that could be together for a long time and be successful, every year you're fighting for a league championship. You're going to be in Champions League every year with a young squad now that's very progressive, playing great football. And it's something that maybe he could be looking at long term, thinking I could be here for the next 4 or 5 years and winning a Copa del Rey, winning La Liga, maybe pushing on for a Champions League with Barcelona, which would be massive. And I mean, just walking out into that stadium, 90 odd thousand people every single week, playing for one of the most storied clubs in the world. I know I'd be looking at it and I'd probably be thinking the same thing. I'd like to go to Barcelona, because when you do talk about Barcelona and Real Madrid, they are the 2 big clubs in world football that is very appealing to people.
The other 2 clubs that have actually had their way with Premier League stars over the years, right? They can lure players from England, from the mighty Premier League, just because they're Real Madrid and Barcelona. It counts for so much. I mean, how cool would it be to see Jonathan David walking out in that Barca kit at the Camp Nou? I mean, my God, it'd be incredible. Just like it would be great seeing Alfonso walking out in Real Madrid colours. But you know what? Still pretty cool to see either of those guys walking out in Arsenal colours, or United colours, or Liverpool colours. All red. In fairness.
No, but
Which works.
there's something about that though. I think as a player, the minute that you put on that Real Madrid jersey, it's like you've made it. You are the best, one of the best players in world football. They just seem to attract the top players that in world football at that current time. And Barcelona, was the exact same. There was a spell there where everybody wanted to play for Barcelona. And you look over the years, players that have played in those 2 clubs is absolutely ridiculous. They are the best of the best when those 2 teams are coming to get you.
And that hasn't changed. You don't think, to Sharm's earlier point with the financial issues, that the shine has worn off them a little bit? Like that allure is always going to be there?
I think it's always going to be there. The club's got too much history. Yeah, look, they've had a little spell there where financially, things didn't go their way, but they always seem to find a way out of it. and they continue to attract players. I mean, even Cole Palmer now, he's getting attracted by Real Madrid.
Fuck off,
You know,
Real
I
Madrid.
was thinking about
Right,
David. Like
we're talking about him now.
Yeah, I know.
we've heard Jesse Marsh talk about how he's the most intelligent footballer that he's ever coached. You know, his teammates and coaches at Lille singing his praises as well. And in my head, the way I've been looking at it is, you know, of these suitors, where is he the most suited to have success based on playing style, based on the coach, based on the minutes that he hopes to get? But maybe because he has such a capacity to understand the game and to grow, and I think to evolve even beyond where he is right now, maybe it's somewhere different. Maybe it is somewhere that's like Barca, where he's going to round out his game that will allow him to further elevate his play when he comes back to Canada. And really kind of, I mean, part of it too is talking about him in all those colors is what you're doing for the Canadian brand as well, right? Like Jimmy and Forrest have talked about this. It's I think equally as true, or I think you could make a case for it in the women's game, but I think it's even rings more true in the men's game, where there seems to be a bias against Canadian players. You're not taken as seriously because you're Canadian. And I think this is part of changing minds. And I don't think that his decision should take that into consideration. But I think when you see a player of his stature, what he's doing and making a name for himself in those types of colors, it just further reinforces, I think, our place as Canadians in the world game. And that's massive. Like that's the sort of the ripple effect, the shock waves of this impending move could potentially have, I think, for Canadians worldwide.
That's a really good point, actually. You look at the women's team and some of the clubs associated with those players, man, they are the biggest in the world. You have the Chelseas, the Liverpools, the Manchester Uniteds, Aston Villas. You have big clubs, and just imagine if that was the men's game. And we had these Canadian players playing on that stage for those clubs. You're right. You shouldn't put that on the players' shoulders, but it does mean something for
Yeah.
sure, and it builds credibility. I think for the national program here as well. You know,
I mean, how good would it be if Fonzie ends up going to Real Madrid, and Jonathan David goes to Barcelona?
imagine those. I mean, El
Huge.
Clasico as it is amazing, but now suddenly for us over here, it's the game to watch each year. It's the
Yeah,
game to watch each year.
It'd
And
be
now
El
there's rumors.
Clasico, eh?
yeah.
Now there's rumors that he's going to re-sign it at Bayern,
Yeah,
right?
I saw that as
After all
well.
those whispers of Real Madrid and going
Ah,
elsewhere, that he's going to
that's
stay.
that sounds an awful lot like an agent just trying to conjure some more money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, why? I mean, honestly, staying at Bayern Munich makes a lot of sense for Fonzie as well. It's funny how because he's been linked with Real Madrid, it's almost like, you had to get out of Germany, you had to get out of Bayern Munich. And now it's time for the next step in your career. This is Bayern Munich. It's one of the
And he's
greatest
playing really
sports
well
clubs in the world, and playing a starter, playing really well.
for Vincent Company, right? He's doing really well since he came in.
Yeah, first name. Well, one of the first. There's a few first names in the team sheet, but he's one of them. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy? Who's the face of Canadian soccer now? Right now, is it still Fonzie? And if John David goes to Barcelona or Arsenal or United, wherever, because he's a striker, because he's kind
Mhm.
of in the glory position, does he suddenly become the face of Canadian soccer over Fonzie?
Well, yeah. I think I think there's a number of faces for Canadian soccer right now. I mean, the more players that you have playing in big clubs, um, you start to get the attention of the fans and the supporters. And Jonathan David, everybody knows what a great talent he is. Yeah, and if he does goes to Barcelona, his profile jumps up even more than what it is right now. And then Fonzie, we all know what he's capable of. We know what he's like. So yeah, look, for me, that if you got a few players that are the face of Canadian soccer, it's better. It shows that we're doing something right here.
Yeah, the fact that we can debate it now that Fonzie might not be the face of Canadian soccer just says everything, right? How far we've come. Now, what will be held against, not hold against him, but what is somewhat will tarnish the move for John David is just because he's a free agent, and that the mainstream media here won't say, "My God, Barcelona just bought John David for 100 million euros," right? That's not going to happen. Obviously, he's moving for free because that counts as something, right? It makes headlines.
Well, they
So
can turn it around and say that Jonathan David just banked 100 million.
yeah, I know. That's so true, right? He's on
Implying he pocketed it.
you banking yourself to run out your contract, you're going to be quids in.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that contract? A guy that's worth that much money, what he can negotiate now? It's a signing bonus.
Ridiculous.